Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. (18 to 23), please. 19 to 23.
Jnanam karma cha karta cha tridhaiva guna bhedatah prochyate guna sankyane yathavat shrunutanyapi sarva bhuteshu yenaikam bhavam avyayamikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tadjnanam viddhi sattvikam prithaktvena tu yajnanam nanabhavan prithagvidhan veti sarveshu bhuteshu tadjnanam viddhi rajasam yattu kritsnavade kasmin karye sattamahaitukam atatvartavadalpam cha tattamasamudahritam niyatam sangarahitam aragadveshatah kritam aphala prepsuna karma yatta sattvikamudhyate.
So yesterday we concluded the various ways that action can be analyzed. And I did tell you that you don't have to be so concerned about the analysis of action. It is more to be aware that there is so much more to action than what we know, and that we need to pay attention to how we act. And action, I don't know how many of you could project this, but it's quite simple. What we all must realize is every one of us is acting right from the time you wake up in the morning till you retire at night. And that is every day of your life. So each one is constantly performing actions. In other words, action is the insignia of life. When you stop acting, you have lost your life, meaning a person dies. But up until the point of death, every human being helplessly performs actions. No one is free from acting. You may say, how do we say that? Because every human is born with vasanas. Vasanas means unmanifest desires. So each one sitting here is a bundle of desires. And these desires need to be expressed, need to be fulfilled. So if you were to sum up your life, anybody's life, it's nothing but fulfilling desires. All through life, you are engaged in fulfilling your own desires. Now you may rightly turn around and say, what's wrong with that? Okay, we have desires, we are born with desires, and we've got a lifetime to satisfy those desires. I don't see anything wrong with that. Now the issue there is, You are free to satisfy your desires. That's what you're doing anyway. But what you may not realize is as you satisfy your desires, several other new desires crop up. So you satisfy one desire, you come back with wanting more. And you may again say, I have the capacity, why not satisfy those desires also? You will only be satisfying desires as you go along, and no one can have all their desires satisfied. It's not possible. So you will face disappointments. And as long as you have unfulfilled desires, you will be agitated, you will be restless. In fact, the interesting part is, desire is personified in all religions as the devil standing between human and God. You remember we talked about the coil spring yesterday? So until you get back to your original state, whatever that is, you will not be restful. You will be restless. So even the richest man is not happy. You heard of Rockefeller? John Rockefeller? So when he was asked, how much money is enough money? John D. Rockefeller, the first billionaire of the world, when asked once, how much money is enough money? He replied, just a little bit more. Now, we may not be Rockefeller sitting here. So you believe, you know what, let me get there and I'll be satisfied. Like here, you're talking about a person who's there and says, little bit more. Again, we're not criticizing, we're only analyzing. So what you are seeking doesn't lie in the world outside. And you can get more and more and most, and you still feel incomplete. This is where philosophy comes in and makes us think. So the Bhagavad Gita is not saying, don't get more. You get whatever you want, that's your business. But one part of you must start thinking, what is it that I'm seeking? What is it that I want? And that something that you want is a simple term. It's called happiness. It's called peace. So you can get any amount of wealth. In fact, money, they say, wealth, we are seeking wealth. Now, what can you get with wealth? See, when we talk about wealth, again, this is not a criticism. In our country, we worship wealth. Who do we worship? Lakshmi. So we have the highest regard for wealth, provided you know how to contact wealth. So wealth could be, money can be the husk of many things, but not the kernel. It brings you food, but not appetite. Medicine, but not health. Acquaintances, but not friends. Servants, but not faithfulness. Days of joy, but not peace and happiness. Norwegian poet says, what can money do? It gets you all these things, no doubt. And it has a certain place in your life, in everybody's life. When we talk about wealth, it could be wealth materially. It could be, this is physical wealth. You have a beautiful body, also has a place in your life. You could have a beautiful mind, also has a place in life. You could be a brilliant person. These are all wealth, inner wealth. So you could have material wealth, you could have inner wealth, but all this has a limitation. It takes you up to a point. When you get there, you don't know what to do. It seems empty. It seems something is missing. You know, don't you have that feeling? If I were to ask you, which I'm not going to, how is life with you? You would probably say, you know, by God's grace, I have everything going, it's good, my life is good, but what? There's one thing I have to set right in my life. Something that is missing. If I correct that, I'm going to be happy. And each one has a story to tell that all's good, you can't complain, but there is something that you have to complete to make your life happy. This will never end. This is the problem with desire. I did say that in all religions, desire is personified as the devil standing between human and God. So if we were to put an equation, you could say human minus desire equals God. And if you're not comfortable with the word God, strike it off, put there truth, reality, your original state. And like we've seen, you will not rest content until you seek and find your original state. This is a law. I cannot change it, you cannot change it. That is why you're given an opportunity called life. Like we said, anything else you don't take. The only thing that stays with you is knowledge or ignorance of your own self. That's all you can take, nothing else. So the appeal here is, while you carry on doing whatever you want to do, one aspect of you should invest time and effort in finding out, who am I? Who are you? Who is this person? What is my essential nature? And a text like the Bhagavad Gita helps you achieve that. So we are now in the process of analyzing our personalities, finding out where are we strong, where are we weak. That is what we are going to be doing. So the first thing, I talked about these 3 gunas. I'm only refreshing your memory because it's very important in our discussion now. The 3 gunas or mental temperaments. Sattva, rajas, tamas. I'll put it on the screen for you. These are the 3 temperaments. Sattva is A grade, rajas is B grade, tamas is C grade. And what are these thought textures that we're talking about, mental temperaments? See, when you touch a piece of cloth, you would say, this is fine cloth, smooth, it's fine, good cloth. Another piece of cloth, you'd say, this is rough cloth, by the feel of it, by the texture. Similarly, these are thought textures that you all have, we all have, which makes you a fine individual or a rough individual, an agitated person or a composed person. Your thoughts make you the way you are. So that is what we are analyzing. What sort of thoughts do you have? You could have 3 types. In fact, you have 3 types, 3 mental temperaments. A grade, B grade, C grade. Now what happens is, each one is a necessary combination of all 3. How much of sattva do you have? Do you know? You're not even aware. How much of rajas do you have? How much of tamas? And where do they come and manifest? That's the analysis we are getting into. So each one is made up of these 3. Rajas, I think I mentioned, is nothing but restless activity. When you're full of desires and ambitions and I want to do this, I must get this. So you are very, very active, you're very dynamic, but you pay a huge price, and that is, you have lost your peace of mind. Most people who are active come under great stress, strain, worry, anxiety, all this goes with action. That's why when you want to be peaceful and happy, when you want to enjoy, you can't enjoy work. You can't enjoy your profession or business. You have to disconnect and get away. You have to go on a holiday. Why? I want to be peaceful. That is why we have weekends. Why do we need weekends? There's a chain of restaurants, it's called TGIF. What does that mean? Thank God it's Friday. Why? Because you want a weekend, you want a break. Nobody says, thank God it's Monday. The day you say, thank God it is Monday, you're on the right track. You're not waiting. It's not that you should not have a weekend. It's not like you're working for the weekend. You work through the year so that you can have a holiday. You don't need it. You may take it. So, to be able to enjoy every aspect of your life, whether you are working or not. In fact, a great Swami Ramatirtha, he died in 1906. He said, when he was lecturing in America, 1902, he was in America lecturing, and an American asked him, what is peace? What is rest? And he was known for his brilliant answers. He said, intense work is rest. I'm not making a mistake. He said, intense work is rest. We can't even conceive that. See, when you learn to enjoy everything that you do, when you convert every action into worship. See, a lady in the house will say, every day I have to cook for these people, every day I have to clean the house. She's bored stiff. It's a painful thing. And she tells the husband, you go to office and come. I have to handle all this. He says, okay, you go to office and I'll handle the work at home. Each one argues. You sit in an air-conditioned room and sign a few checks and come back and you've got 10 fellows to do things. I have to sit in here, find out whether the driver has come and the children have gone and come back and all sorts of problems. Each one complains. He also says the same thing. You know what sort of problems I have in office? You're only sitting at home and I've given you all the facilities, but you come, I'm answerable to my boss. I'm answerable to so many things. What is your problem to take care of the house? Each day there are arguments going on between husband and wife. Each one is bored with their own life, but they have to do it, otherwise they can't survive. Nobody enjoys. So if you think this is something coming out of an ancient text, you've heard of Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King. Let's see what he has to say. So he says, if a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep streets even as Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will pause to say, here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well. It doesn't matter what you do. You've got to enjoy. You've got to worship what you do. If each one took up their duties and responsibilities with this attitude, you will not only enjoy, but it will be outstanding. You will be an outstanding person. So it works both ways. Yet, we don't know the beauty and grandeur of action. See, we're still in the subject of action because action is the insignia of life. And you are acting all the time to convert every single action into worship. It's possible. As he says, like Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry. That should be your day-to-day activity. Every moment, what would be your state of inspiration? So this is not a motivational speech, please. These are facts given out by the Bhagavad Gita. We're only analyzing it in a way that we can understand and relate to it. So your life will depend on the type of actions you perform. And that's why we are analyzing it so thoroughly. So before we get into today's portions, I will put it on the screen for you what we are going to be studying today and tomorrow. So the gunas are the qualities, sattva, rajas, tamas. I did say sattva is the highest guna, rajas is the mediocre guna, and tamas is the lowest. where you are heedless and lazy and lethargic. We'll come to it as we go along. So the gunas expressed in action define your personality. That's how you understand your personality. So sattva, the highest, is when you are dynamic and yet graceful in your actions. Rajas is when your actions are passion-packed and full of restlessness and agitations. So you're dynamic, you're an achiever, but full of agitations, mental agitations. You can never be relaxed. And tamas is action under compulsion. Unless you have to do it, you will not. Even taking care of your health, the doctor has to warn you. Then you will start taking care. If you don't go for a walk, if you don't diet, don't come back to me. That's when you'll start. Don't you know you have to take care of your own body? Why can't you do it? Tamas. So these are the 3 gunas. And then there's 7 aspects that we are studying. I don't know if you can see it. It says relinquishment, tyaga, which we have already done. Relinquishment is giving up the retarding forces in action, not action. So sattvic tyaga is when you give up the retarding forces of attachment. Attachment is desire-ridden action. I want to do this for myself and I want to enjoy. You are going to enjoy. You are doing it for yourself. Why do you have to highlight that? That comes and bothers you. Take that off while you're acting. Now it's easily said than done. It's a whole process. But that is what you have to avoid. And the anxiety for fruit. So if you take this out of your action, you got a perfect action. You will be both successful and peaceful. That is the highest. Sattvic tyaga. Rajasic tyaga is giving up something because it's too painful, too much trouble. That is why you give it up. Otherwise you will not. So that is not real tyaga. You will not get the benefits of that relinquishment because you're giving up what you should be doing. And tamasic is when you give up something because you're ignorant. You don't know the value. Like a child will throw a diamond necklace. You can't say, aha, what tyaga. A child doesn't know. Well, you will not do it because you know the value. I'm not saying you should throw it. We're only saying the child does it out of ignorance. So you can't praise the child. You will say, all right, baby, and take it away. Because you know the child is ignorant. Similarly, we give up our duties. Why should I take care of my mother-in-law? I don't like her. Give it up. All right, someday you will be a mother-in-law. Then you will see the returns. Too late, too late. See, there was a strange funeral. There were 2 coffins and a man with a dog walking behind the 2 coffins. And behind this man with a dog, there was a long serpentine line of people walking in single file. You get the picture? 2 coffins, a man with a dog, and behind him, following him, is a line of people, single file, following him. So somebody saw this. This is a very strange funeral. What is going on? So he went up to the man with the dog who was behind the coffins and said, what happened? What's going on here? He said, oh, that's the coffin. My wife and mother-in-law both passed away. Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. What happened? It's a big tragedy. He said, you know this dog? Well, it attacked my mother-in-law, and my wife tried to save her. It attacked my wife. In the bargain, both were killed. That's what you're seeing. So this man, in a big hurry, he said, I'm so sorry to hear all this. It's a terrible tragedy, I do agree. But sir, please, can I borrow your dog? He said, no problem, join the queue. Sometimes when you get desperate, you don't know how to handle both wife and mother-in-law. Don't try all this. But because you don't know how to deal with these situations. So you've got to, even if it is painful, you have to do what you have to do. This is what you got to learn, not what you like. You take what you like, you discard what you dislike. That is tamasic relinquishment. It will not help you. So relinquishment is one part which we've already studied. I'm only revising that. Keep it in mind. Then the other aspects that we are going to be studying is knowledge, jnanam, because you need to have knowledge of what you're doing. And then karma, the actual action, the act of doing it. And a karta, an individual who acts, who does the action. And then you need an intellect to guide you. What sort of an intellect is guiding you? Sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. All of them can be analyzed by the three gunas. So, jnana, karma, karta, and then buddhi, intellect, dhriti, steadfastness. Are you steadfast? Meaning, do you complete what you've taken up or midway leave it? You need steadfastness to complete anything. That's part of action. And then the goal of all actions is sukham. Sukham, happiness. Anybody does anything, even a criminal who perpetrates negative actions, it satisfies him. That is why he does it. He's not doing it painfully. He's enjoying it. So every action, positive or negative, the goal is happiness. But what sort of happiness are you seeking? Is it a high quality happiness? Is it mediocre? Is it low? So your life, your personality will depend on how you choose these 7 aspects of action. That's what we'll be studying. We start with the 19th verse.
Jnanam karma cha karta cha tridhaiva guna vedatah प्रोच्यते गुणसंख्याने यथा वच्छृणुतान्यपि ज्ञानं कर्म च कर्ता च त्रिधैव गुणभेदतः प्रोच्यते गुणसंख्याने यथा वच्छृणुतान्यपि.
Knowledge, action and actor are also said to be threefold according to the distinction in gunas, qualities in the science of gunas. Hear them also duly. I've already covered this. Now it becomes easier to understand what he's saying. So knowledge, action, actor, I've told you why you need all three, are said to be threefold, meaning they would be defined as sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. You have all three in all of them. And based on these gunas, in the science, I've told you from day one, the Bhagavad Gita is a science. And you will find, there's certain words, of course, because we don't have much time, I can't share all that with you, but there are certain words in the Bhagavad Gita which tell you or prove to you that it is a science. For example, often the word tasmat is used. It means therefore. Just as when you solve a mathematical problem, at the end you would say QED. It is proved because you've applied the laws of mathematics and derived an answer. See, sometimes even in a math test, they give a problem and you have to derive the answer. You'll have to go step by step and get the answer. So sometimes you may get the right answer. The answer is correct. The number is correct. But the method is incorrect. You won't get marks for it. Because you have not derived it. You just happen to have a number which is incorrect. Similarly, you may read the Bhagavad Gita every day. There are many people who say, I read it. It's like getting the answer. But have you gone step by step? See, first things first. Do you know what sort of a person you are? Do you know which way are you going? See, when I say that, you've got to imagine there is a graph of human development. Let's assume that, okay? At 0, a human is not at all developed. Meaning, materially, he has achieved nothing. in the world, physically completely neglected his system. He's a waster, he doesn't take care of his body. Mentally, he has no feelings. You say sometimes, are you a piece of wood? Are you stone? Can't you feel? You tell people that when you get angry because they're not reacting, they're not responding. So you say, such a person has no feelings. He's a piece of wood or stone. So emotionally, he's nothing, no feelings. And intellectually, he's not smart. Smart enough to do anything, to understand things, to reason out, to understand logic, nothing. You really don't find such people. But let's assume theoretically that person is at 0 point. Hardly a human. You probably say he's an animal or he's a plant. Put him there. And then you go all the way to the 100th point and say, here is a perfect human, whatever that is. Imagine a person who's perfect in everywhere. In fact, these enlightened souls, these masters who are self-realized are said to be in a state of perfection. But we're not getting into that, we're not explaining that, but theoretically let's put a 100th mark where there is perfection. We don't know that, but it's there. Now we're really not concerned about these two extremes. What should concern everyone in this classroom is that all of us are somewhere between 0 and 100. Do you know where you are? This is your life. Do you know where you are? This analysis will help you if you do not. But let's assume you have some idea. And you say, look, I can place myself as a human. I'll place myself at, say, 40%. I'm good. I've got things going. But I know I have to improve a lot. So you put yourself at 40%. That in itself is a great understanding of yourself. But what is more important, do you know which way you are going? Are you moving towards 45, 50, 60? Is that what you're doing this lifetime? Because you're given an opportunity to live. Or are you going the other way? It's your life. It's your call. So that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to find out where you are on that graph and ensure that you're moving in a direction that will make you a better human. So this is the knowledge you need, the action, and you, the actor, should perform in such a way that you follow this science of gunas and take you all the way to a state of human perfection.
सर्वभूतेषु येनैकं भावमव्ययमीक्षते अविभक्तं विभक्तेषु तज्ज्ञानं विद्धि सात्विकम् सर्वभूतेषु येनैकं भावमव्ययमीक्षते अविभक्तं विभक्तेषु तज्ज्ञानं विद्धि सात्विकम्.
So verse 20 to 22 deals with jnanam, knowledge. So we'll be studying sattvika, rajasika, tamasika, jnanam. Here he says, that by which one sees the one indestructible being in all beings, inseparate in the separate, know that knowledge to be sattvika. So what is the highest quality of knowledge? It is when you see, he says, the one indestructible being. It's in capital B. See, whenever you see the capital, you must understand, he's referring to the truth, the reality, that one unifying entity, which is common for all living beings. Whether a human or an animal or a plant, all living beings. I'm told, you can Google it and find out, on this planet, you know how many species live on this planet? Do you have any idea? Huh? 1 trillion. 1 trillion. Google it. Don't believe me. Google it. Imagine we are sharing this planet with 1 trillion species, living beings. And of all these species, only one species, the human, has the capacity to know the truth. No other species. So to come all the way and be born a human is unique. And then what do you do this whole life? Complain. You complain about things. You fight with people. You hate. There's jealousy, there's greed, there's anger, there's hatred. And who suffers with all these negative emotions? Only you. Only you. You're eating yourself up. Yet you don't hesitate because there is no education. See, a human being needs to be educated on the higher values. No animal needs it. No plant needs it. Only a human. And in this country, in our country, from the age of 8, a young person was given this knowledge. Today at 80, we don't do it. We're still hesitating. When we say the books are there, e-learning is there, books are there, e-learning is there, you think it's some kind of marketing program going on. It's up to you to help yourself. There is knowledge everywhere, but do you know how to gain the knowledge? You're concerned about gaining a degree in the world or a couple of degrees. What can all the knowledge in the world do for anyone? You can only exchange it for wealth, period. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but it has a limitation. What about the quality of your life? What about finding the truth? What about peace in this world? What about peace within yourself? It's very nice to listen to some person sing. What about peace? What about world? All that you like, and then get back to your own world. It's just a fancy, entertainment. That's all we do when we listen to people singing or messages given on peace. It's just entertainment. But you've got to ask yourself that question. What is this truth? What is this peace that I'm searching for? That is represented by that capital B, being. You can use your own words. So he says, when you are able to x-ray through all the differences in the world, yes, there is right, there is wrong. There is good, there is bad. There is war, there is peace. All these differences are in this world. But are you able to x-ray through all the differences and see there is something beyond it, which is the truth? We get involved in the differences. We get lost in the differences. That's why we miss the truth. You've seen a picture of Lord Ganesha? I'm sure you have. There's a unique feature in Ganesha. What is it? Of course, he's got an elephant head and the rest of it. But something that you've noticed in a form? Huh? Broken tooth. One of the tusks is broken. It happened that many years ago, an American couple came to meet Swamiji, my father, and they were in deep conversation, and this symbolism of Lord Ganesha had come up in the conversation, and Swamiji was explaining to them that, the tusk is broken and all the rest of it. Now, the broken tusks means this. I don't know if you know it. It's in the symbolism of Hindu gods and rituals, the book. It's explained there. All of us are caught up in pairs of opposites. See, one of the signs of perfection is this. Lord Ganesha represents perfection in a human being. It's very, very strange to have an elephant head, large ears, big belly, and then he's perfect. Now, it's symbolic. It's like an artist. It's an artist paints a picture, just some hues, some, strokes of the brush, and an eye there. And then if you ask him, what is that? A person meditating. Where is the person meditating? You don't know. He has to explain to you. So you give an artist that freedom of expression because he sees something and presents it. In a similar way, these masters of yore, they pictured perfection in a way and presented it. That's what you have, Lord Ganesha. So, one of the signs of perfection is not to be tossed by the pairs of opposites. And that is why the tusk is broken, to represent the fact that he is beyond these fluctuations that a normal human being faces. Meaning, you're excited when the things are going right, you're dejected when things go wrong. That doesn't happen to a perfect person. He understands things are going right, doesn't get excited. He enjoys it, knowing fully well sorrow is waiting. So he's prepared for the next. And then when sorrow comes, he's fully prepared, so he doesn't get dejected. Come, Mr. Sorrow. You come very often to my home, have a cup of tea, get out. Why? Joy is waiting. So you take life as it comes. That is perfection. Otherwise, you hold on to joy and joy wants to go. And you want to hold on to the leg and you drag yourself. Joy will go. Why? Sorrow is waiting. So you are fluctuating when you don't understand what it takes to be perfect human. And as Swamiji was explaining, the couple got restless. So Swamiji was wondering, why are they restless? So he said, is there something wrong? Did I say something that is incorrect? She said, no, we made a terrible mistake. They went, they were staying in Bombay Taj Hotel, and they went to a shop to buy some curios. And they saw Ganesha, beautiful, statue of Ganesha. And they said, how cute, elephant head. They bought it because he looked very cute, the American couple. And then they did not bargain with this fellow because he's, in the pavement, he's got a small shop and selling his wares. So they gave him whatever price, knowing fully well the fellows charged them more than what its value is. And they walked away. When they came to the room and they saw the statue, it is broken. So the fellow, we did not bargain with him and he's given us a broken statue. So he went back. He said, what sort of a fellow are you? We didn't bargain with you, and you've given us a broken statue? So that fellow is scratching the head because he knows all the statues are broken. All the tusks are broken. He tried to tell them, no, that is how Ganesha comes. He says, no, don't. See, listen, you either give us a good statue or keep this back. I don't want the money. He said, all right. So he went to another statue, pulled one good tusk and put it there and gave it to them. Now when they heard the symbolism, he said that Ganesha has no meaning without the broken tusk. So they decided to go all the way back to that same fellow. Now they are fighting, give us the broken tusk. That fellow said, these Americans, I tell you, mad fellows, they'll fight for anything. So that ability to go beyond is a state of perfection. So how far are you on that path? You will be able to x-ray through these differences and see the one unifying factor. And that unifying factor is the truth. That is sattvic knowledge. That ability gives you the highest knowledge. And then he continues. He talks about rajasic knowledge.
Pritatvena tuya jnanam nana bhavan pritagvidhan veti sarveshu bhuteshu tajnanam vidhi rajasam pritatvena tuya jnanam nana bhavan pritagvidhan veti sarveshu bhuteshu tajnanam vidhi rajasam.
By that knowledge which by differentiation sees distinction and variety in all beings, know that knowledge to be rajasika. So now, you don't see the unifying factor at all. Then what do you see? You see the right and wrong. You see the good and bad. You see pleasure and pain, honor and dishonor. You see races as different, American or Japanese or Chinese or Indian. You see all of us as different from each other. So you put yourself into compartments, not to talk of religion. Religion also, we see the differences. You are a Christian, I am a Muslim, you are a Hindu. You see the differences, but you're not able to see the oneness. All these various paths are meant to lead us to that one truth. It's like different routes to the same destination. But we get stuck with the route, the path, and forget that one destination. That's why you fail to see the unifying factor, you highlight the differences, and therefore you remain agitated. There will be anger, there will be hatred, there will be jealousy, there will be all sorts of negative emotions because you see the differences. See, even in two people, no two people are alike in the world. And even husband and wife, you are made differently. You come together for whatever reason, and then you expect each to behave the way you want, and you're miserable. See, a marriage is about learning to get along with that incompatibility, to understand incompatibility. I think it was Leo Tolstoy. He talks about how one should look at marriage. Marriage is between two domestic partners, or it could be even official partners. Partners don't think the same way. So he says, what counts in making a happy marriage is not so much how compatible you are, but how you can deal with incompatibility. How do you deal with it? Instead of saying you should go according to what I think, and then nobody will follow it. So you see only incompatibility in the world. You see the differences, and when you see the differences, you will never be peaceful. You cannot get along with anybody. Your own spouse you can't get along. What to talk of the world? Because everybody is incompatible. Nobody is the way you want them to be. And that makes you miserable. Rajasic knowledge. Yes, there are differences. Yes, people are different. There will be this right and wrong and good and bad. But how do you deal with it is the question. Rajasic knowledge will only enable you to see the differences and suffer the differences. That's the problem with Rajasic knowledge. You will never be able to see the unifying entity that makes everything possible, like Sattvic knowledge. And then he goes on to Tamasic.
Yattu kritsnavadekasmin karye sattamahaitukam atatvarthavadalpam cha tattamasamudahritam. Yattu kritsnavadekasmin karye sattamahaitukam atarvatavadalpam cha tattamasamudahritam.
Indeed, that which clings to a single facet as if the whole, without reason, without foundation in truth, and is trivial, that is declared tamasika. So tamasika is the lowest kind of knowledge, where you hold on to a part as if it were the whole. And when you do that, you miss the truth. You miss the reality completely. So there is another book, it's called Select English Poems. And there is a collection of poems. I think I mentioned to you the other day, and talked of in Hamlet, the advice of Polonius to Laertes is also there in that book. It's a very useful book. You might want to take a look at it. Now, one of the poems in the book is entitled The Blind Men and the Elephant. You know, the blind men of Hindustan went to see an elephant. How can a blind man see? But that's the way the poem goes. And what is relevant is the last portion of the poem. And I'll put it up on the screen so you understand, because it describes tamasic knowledge. So he says, So these men of Hindustan disputed loud and long, each of his own opinion, exceedingly stiff and strong, though each was partly in the right, and all were in the wrong. Because, see, each one touched a part of the elephant and said, hey, the elephant is like a fan, because he touched the ear. Another person said, elephant is like a tree, because he touched the leg. Now, and then another one says it touches the tail and says the elephant is like a rope. Now, what is interesting here is they are all sincere, because they are saying whatever they have experienced. But nobody has the patience to understand, hey, this may be only a part, but what is the whole truth? So if you hold on to your part, however right you are, you still have not understood the whole truth. You miss the truth. That is tamasic knowledge. That obstinate holding on to a part which may be right, but you still have not understood the whole reality. How far is the elephant from a rope? How far is the elephant from a fan? How far is the elephant from a tree? It's a different understanding completely. So you can't afford to have tamasic knowledge. If you hold on, you miss the truth. So he says, so oft in theologic wars, the disputants, I ween, rail on in utter ignorance of what each other mean, and prat about an elephant not one of them has seen. That is how we develop our ideas about the truth, about the reality. Now, my guru is the best. My religion is the best. My institution is the best. My ashram is the best. You go to whatever ashram you want. You go to whichever teacher you want. But the question is, have you found the truth? No point holding on to who you like, who you have a fancy for, and missing out the truth. And if you do it, you have tamasic knowledge, is all that the Bhagavad Gita is saying. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but we are only interpreting what the Gita says. If you do such a thing, then you have tamasic knowledge. Continues.
Niyatam sangarahitam aragadveshatah kritam aphala prepsuna karma yatat satvikam uchyate. Niyatam sangarahitam aragadveshatah kritam aphala prepsuna karma yatat satvikam uchyate.
Now we are going to be analyzing action. We've just finished knowledge. Remember earlier we did relinquishment, knowledge, now action, sattvic action. An obligatory action executed without attachment, free from like or dislike, and not desirous of fruit is called sattvika. See, 2 points you're already familiar. We said even in relinquishment, you've got to relinquish not action, but the retarding forces, the roadblocks. What are the roadblocks for any action? 2 things. One is your attachment. You do it because you like to do it. You avoid it because you dislike to do it. That is not right in relinquishment or in action. Whether you like it or not, you have duties to perform. You're a human. You're not an animal. You're not a plant. You need to fulfill your duties. See, our country, we talk about pollution. We talk about dirt. Why? Because everybody here will say, if I'm not responsible for what the country is, what my city is, how to keep the city clean. Have you been maintaining your discipline? So if each one says, by me being disciplined, how is the city benefited? Let everybody do it. Now the problem is, everybody is thinking in that manner, therefore nobody does what you ought to do. You maintain your discipline, doesn't matter. The typical mentality we have, if there is a wedding, how many of you go on time? Oh, don't tell me, I know it. They put the time 7:30. So at home you'll be discussing, 7:30 reception, then we'll go by 9 o'clock. Because even if you do go, there may be some of you who will go at 7:30, even the bride and bridegroom have not arrived. There are many times we have gone on time, met whoever's there, please convey our good wishes to the bride and bridegroom, and left. Because we've got things to do. We can't be sitting till 9 o'clock waiting for them to come. If they are not disciplined, God be with them. They've got their whole life of indiscipline. But we can't afford it. But if each one starts doing it, there will be a different feel in this country. If each one decides to keep the cities clean, it'll be different. How do you dispose the dirt? How do you do it? If everyone is dedicated, the whole city will change, the whole country will change. The same people, okay, you may not agree to this. What about traffic rules? How many maintain traffic rules? At 6:30 in the morning, there's a red light, simply go. And if you stop, the fellow behind will honk. A mad fellow, you're stopping when there's a red light, go. He will get irritated because you're following rules. Nobody follows because they say nobody's following. Everybody's mentality is so. Each one does what he ought to do. Never mind if you're all alone, do it. And you'll see how it will influence others. This classroom is too many people. If everyone in this classroom decides to be disciplined, it's like having so many Christ, so many Krishnas, so many Muhammad, so many Buddhas. Too much for the world. And I'm saying it very boldly because I know you will listen to everything and go back to exactly where you were. I'm not hurting you. I'm only saying we're being realistic, not idealistic. It's not easy. Anything constructive is difficult. You've got to be dedicated. Unless you're dedicated, it cannot happen. But we have to keep constantly telling people what is good for them and expect them not to follow. And otherwise, I will be the most stressed person because I'm talking, nobody's listening. You know, Swamiji, my father, Guru, he's 92. And up until this day, he's active. And he keeps telling us, I've been talking for 60 years. Nobody's listening. And yet I keep talking. And people ask, then why are you talking? Because I only know how to talk. That's all. So same thing, we are continuing the same principle, that we must give out what is given out in the scripture. It's up to you to follow or not. Now, how do you understand an obligatory action executed without attachment, free from like or dislike, and not anxious for the fruit? How do you describe that? Thomas Huxley, the Englishman, he puts it beautifully. If you follow that, you've understood sattvic action. He says, perhaps the most valuable result of all education is the ability to make yourself do the thing you have to do when it ought to be done, whether you like it or not. When it ought to be done. No point doing it later. You should do it when it should be done, whether you like it or not. It is the first lesson that ought to be learned, and however early a person's training begins, it's probably the last lesson a person learns thoroughly. So it's not only Gita, any thinker worth the name gave us the same truth. That is sattvic action. Now let's see what's rajasic action.
Yattu kamepsu na karma sahankarena va punaha kriyate bahulayasam tadrajasamudahritam yattu kamepsu na karma sahankarena va punaha kriyate bahulayasam tadrajasamudahritam.
But action done by one longing for desired object with egoism, again with much effort, is declared rajasika. So what is rajasika? kamepsuna, longing for objects of desire. Remember we said he's anxious. I want to get it, I want to get it. So you're very result-oriented. So even if you take up a sensible action, like, okay, you've heard, we're talking about fitness and fitness. I must become fit. Why not? I must try from tomorrow. And then you start. First thing you join a gym or you whatever you want to do, you do it. And then what do? Highly stressed. Why? Two things you can't get over. One is looking at the mirror. Sideways, this way, that way, constantly. Am I reducing? Am I putting on? Worried. I've paid so much for the gym. I don't know if it's worth it. And then the weighing scale. 3 times a day you weigh yourself. And a few ounces I've put on. Few ounces, I must reduce this. I must reduce the carbs. Are Baba, don't want fitness because you will have physical fitness and lose your mental equanimity. So you've got another problem now to attend because anxiety. You've got anxiety all the time. This attitude of being result-oriented in action is Rajasika. So you can never relax. And what's more, he says, with much effort and egoism, because you are thinking about yourself. How good am I? Am I being appreciated? Are people recognizing me? You're constantly aware of your individuality. It's not doing the right thing, but you doing it right. So the awareness is more on your personality than doing the right type of action. So that puts you under a lot of stress because you're all the time looking for others' appreciation. Are people recognizing me? Are they taking notice of all the hard work I've put in? You're more concerned about that than doing the right things in life. You're not like the street sweeper. You just got to do it. See, Michelangelo or Beethoven or Shakespeare, they were not looking for audience. They were not looking for appreciation. Any artist, for that matter, is not looking at others and painting or singing. Especially in a classical music, when a singer is so inspired in a particular rag, he's singing, and he has the accompaniments and he gets warmed up, the audience, they're listening to him, and then he closes his eyes at a point because he's so inspired by that rag. He is in his own world and he hits a peak. Such beautiful music he brings out. It's the audience who applaud. That's when he almost comes out of that inspiration and understands he's rendered something extraordinary. So it is his inspiration that brings about something extraordinary, not looking at the audience all the time. Are you appreciating what I'm singing? Then he can't sing. So this is what he's trying to say. Even in your actions, you're not looking for the appreciation. Is my husband recognizing my work? Is my wife appreciating me? Are the children looking up to me? Are the boss looking up to me? You are constantly worried about what others are thinking about you rather than being inspired by what you have to do and do it. So here he says, longing for desired object with egoism. You've got to recognize what all I've done for you. Even a parent to child, you'll keep on telling them, you know how much I've done for you? The child says, who asked you to do it for me? Leave me alone, You don't keep on announcing your sacrifices. That's his egoism. You want them to recognize it. See, you're a parent, you decided to have a child, now you face the consequence. Why are you constantly telling them? I don't know if children are here, they'll go back to their parents and say, why are you telling me? Then they say, the parents will never go for Bhagavad Gita class. Wrong place. You're learning wrong things. But it is a fact, when you're egoistic, you have a lot of expectation. And then he says, with much effort. That's why you say, I'm tired. What are you so tired? Every day you're tired. By the end of day, you have no energy. And somehow you go out and have dinner and then you are exhausted. You have to watch television to entertain you. Otherwise, there's no energy. Children, full of energy. You tell the child, why can't you keep quiet? Because you want to keep quiet. The children will be jumping, jumping, jumping. That's why you want them to go away, go for sport, get away from me. That's all you want. Because you can't handle their energy. Why? You don't have energy. Why do the children have so much energy when they don't have physical strength? You are a full-grown adult. You are strong compared to a child, but you don't have half the energy the child has. Why is that? Because of this problem. You have worries and worries and worries. You have anxiety, anxiety, anxiety. It drains your energy. All the worries, all the anxieties drains your energy. You have no energy at all. You're exhausted. And anything you do, you feel, oh my God, how much I've done. What have you done? Signed 4 papers in an air-conditioned room. And you were driven to office and driven back. Still, you will say, I have no energy. See, in the good old days, they had to cut logs of wood. They had to light the fire. They had to clean the place. They had to carry things. Mixie we have, it goes in 1 minute. They had to grind everything. All the conveniences. Not only that, as things are becoming more and more sophisticated, you don't even have to open a door, it opens automatically. You don't have to climb stairs, it goes on its own. So much of convenience, and you have no energy. In the good old days, you had to walk, and then people were far more healthy. Now you've got all the conveniences, you don't do anything. Then what do? You pay through your nose, go to a gym, and do exactly what you did in the good old days. But pay for it. What? You have to do this. Why? Because there's no handles to open the door. There's no grinding, so then you have to do the exercise. You're paying for that. I can't understand. No, I'm not saying don't go to a gym. Please go, at least that much health you have. But if you are smart, you will incorporate all this in your life and make it simple. And also go to a gym. Nothing wrong with that. But he says, when you are egoistic, when you are all the time anxious about what you have to do, when you have worries and anxieties, you lose your energy completely. You don't have that zest for life. Whereas a young person is full of energy because they don't have worries and anxieties. So if you cut off these retarding forces, you've got a great action going. But rajas is when you have worries, anxieties, and egoism in your action. He continues.
Anubandham kshayam himsam anavekshya cha paurusham mohadarabhyate karma yattat tamasamuchyate. Anubandham kshayam himsam anavekshya cha paurusham mohadarabhyate karma yattat tamasamuchyate.
An action undertaken from delusion, regardless of consequence, loss, injury, and ability, is called tamasika. So you're regardless of consequence. I'm doing this. What will be the repercussion? It could be fatal. You know, some people take pride in some strange things. What are you doing New Year's Eve? What's the plan? I plan to get completely drunk. What a fantastic thought. That's an achievement. No, there are people who do not worried about the consequence. Who is going to suffer? Who is going to be the fool? You will be the fool. You don't understand. But you will want to do that. Absolutely regardless of consequence. You know what we're told? You've heard of Las Vegas? If you don't know Las Vegas, how will you know Bhagavad Gita? Las Vegas, besides gambling and all that, it is said to be the most popular wedding destination in the US. And, very strangely, it's the US divorce capital. And I think the record was marriage annulled in 55 hours. 55 hours. This celebrity marriage. Simply, you don't know. In Las Vegas, you may not know who you're married to. Only in the morning when you wake up, oh, there's somebody here, is it? That's what you'll realize, because you're already married. And then there is not the person they meant to marry. So, such actions, what do you call such actions? And you don't want to do it. You regret. But you did it, regardless of consequence. So, I'm told in, I don't know if you've heard of this famous soccer player, football player. It's down in football history. I'll put it up on the screen. One of the most shocking moments in football history came during World Cup final 2006. French captain, Zidane. You've heard of the French captain? So, was sent off for head-butting one of the other team players, Marco Materazzi. And France went on to lose the match, and it has become one of the main incidents that the footballing legend, Zidane, is remembered for, and it was his final World Cup. The incident has even been turned into a statue. I don't know if you can see it. This is a statue of the head-butting. This is the actual incident, 2018. I mean, it was published in 2018, but what took place in 2006. So this football legend is known for the head-butting, not for all that he achieved. I'm not saying it's tamasic or whatever, but regardless of consequence, when you do something in the spur of the moment, you don't get what you should be getting. So regardless of consequence, loss, injury, ability, and that is tamasika.
Mukta sango naham vadi dhrityutsaha samanvitaha siddhya siddhyo nirvikaraha karta satvika uchyate Mukta sango naham vadi dhrityutsaha samanvitaha siddhya siddhyor nirvikaraha karta satvika uchyate.
An actor free from attachment, not egoistic, endued with firmness and enthusiasm, unaffected by success and failure, is called sattvika. So you could easily get the pattern now. What is sattvic? What is rajasic? What is tamasic? So here he's saying, an actor, we're describing a sattvic actor, he is free from attachment. He is not bound by prejudice or preferences, not possessive. He's free from all that. And then not egoistic. He doesn't have that attitude. I am doing. I am responsible. Even a successful person, see, you can't achieve success by yourself. There are so many people who have contributed to your success. So to take it upon yourself and believe, I have achieved, is the height of egoism. So to describe this better, we fall back on Einstein, what he had to say. He said, 100 times every day I remind myself that my inner and outer life depend on the labors of other men, living and dead, and that I must exert myself in order to give in the same measure as I have received, and I am still receiving. And that's why he was what he was. A person of such achievement always felt that he didn't achieve by himself. So many people have contributed, living and dead, and are still contributing to his achievements. Now where is that? Where are we? That's a sattvic approach in action, in an actor. No? It's an attitude that an actor has. And then he says you're firm in the sense you are determined to do what you have taken to do, and enthusiastic. It's not like it's a drudgery. I have to do this. I have to go every morning to office, otherwise I don't get a pay packet. That's the reason you go. No, I've got a job to do. Let me do it to the best of my ability. You've got to spring out of bed every morning. You've got another day. Let me contribute. What can I do to serve the world? That attitude gives you that enthusiasm. So he's firm, consistent. He will not give up till he achieves it. And he's full of enthusiasm. You could fail. Doesn't matter. Pick yourself up and move. You know, in philosophy they say, there will be falls. Nobody can have a smooth life. Everybody has their falls. But he says, even if you fall like a rubber ball. Fall and spring back. Don't fall like a piece of lead and sit there. Never mind if you failed. Try till you get it. That gives you that enthusiasm. And then he says, he's unaffected by success or failure. One time you may get it, another time you may not. So what? Have that sportsmanship. Have that attitude. Okay, world, you win this time. Next time I'll win. And have that attitude of a sportsman. If you do that, life is interesting. Every day is wonderful. But you don't know what to expect. You're prepared for success or failure. And never let it slow you down. Yes, you may not get what you want. Keep trying, keep trying. Your motto in life should be, it's in the book, the Vedanta treatise. When he talks about action, there's a chapter on that. And then he says, each one's motto in life should be this: to strive, to struggle, and not to succeed. I'm not making a mistake. Your motto in life should be to strive, to struggle, not to succeed. Doesn't mean you have to court failure. Nobody wants to fail. But you should enjoy the striving and struggling and don't bother about being successful. So what if you're not successful? I've done my best. You know how many scientists have dedicated their whole life to discover something and failed? And then somebody else picks it up and finishes the hard work he started with. He didn't stop because he didn't discover what he was looking for. It's that struggle, it's striving, and that's how we are benefited by the striving and struggling of a galaxy of scientists, galaxy of thinkers. We are enjoying it. So that should be the attitude, and that is the attitude of a sattvic actor. Continues.
Ragi karma bhala prepsuhu lubdho himsatmako shuchihi harsha shokanvitah karta rajasah parikirtitah ragi karma bhala prepsuhu lubdho himsatmako shuchihi harsha shokanvitah karta rajasah parikirtitah.
An actor who's passionate, desirous of fruit of action, greedy, cruel, impure, moved by joy and sorrow is called Rajasika. So he's a victim of emotion. You know, people get emotional. You could get hysterical. Some people are emotional, some people are eccentric, some people are hysterical, and then if you go all the way, you're insane. And then you have to be committed to an institution. But if you're not that far, there will be bouts of emotion. All this is when you are a victim of your own mind. That's why John Milton says the mind has its own place. It can make a heaven out of hell or a hell out of heaven. If your mind is not controlled, you can be placed in heaven. You will find the defect in every angel there. They're Rakshasa. What? It actually happened. Krishna, in the one of the parables that we hear of, he called upon two people. He called Duryodhana first. You know who Duryodhana was? For all our practical purposes, a negative man, a wicked person, a bad person. Okay, that was Duryodhana. And he told him, he said, you know what, I have a job for you. He said, what, Krishna, what job? He said, can you find me one good person in this world, please? He said, that's all? He said, yes, I need a good person to do something. He said, okay. So he left looking for a good person in the world. Then he called upon Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira was a good man. And he called upon Yudhishthira and said, I want you to find one bad person. Same world. Yudhishthira said, for what, Krishna? Doesn't matter. Just find me one bad person. I have to do something. I need a bad person to do the job. So Yudhishthira went looking for bad person. Duryodhana went looking for good person in the same world. You know what happened? Both of them came back unsuccessful. Duryodhana told Krishna, Krishna, what a job you're giving. You're asking me to find a good man in this world? Where are you, Krishna? I went even for the Bhagavad Gita class, not one person I could find. He could not find. Even here he came, could not find. That's what he's thinking. He thinks everybody is negative. So, it is said, what Peter speaks of Paul speaks more of Peter than of Paul. What you speak of another person speaks more about you, not the other person. So Yudhishthira, he went and said, Krishna, you're asking for bad person. There is nobody who's bad. Everybody is good. It's in your mind. How you project. No, that doesn't mean you say if there is a sharp instrument, it can be blunt. No, no, no. There is good and bad. You don't connect with that. See, when you see a tiger, you will say next, Bhagavad Gita said there is nothing bad in a tiger. I went and touched the tiger. Don't come and complain to us. See, yes, there is good and bad. Why are you connecting to that? Why do you see? Why do you pick up only the bad? There's so much good. You associate with that. Avoid the bad. Let that take care of itself. But this rajasic person is greedy, cruel, impure, moved by joy and sorrow. And he will not hesitate to help himself at any cost. You know, people eat food. And I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. It's up to you what you want to do with your life. But do you know how many innocent animals are killed? More than 1 billion animals are killed. I think every day or throughout the world we're talking about. And I can understand if it's consumed, half the food is thrown. It's thrown. You kill an animal and throw the meat. Nobody cares because they can't speak for themselves. So not only that, forget food, clothing. People love silk. Kanjivaram silk. You'll go all the way to south and thousands of silkworms live are put into boiling water. Who cares for the lives of silkworms? For what? One sari. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. You better think. It's your life. And tomorrow when the tsunami hits you, don't complain. Why is nature angry? What you do, nature returns. When there is starvation, when there is drought, when there is floods, don't complain. Because we humans are creating havoc. We're destroying the planet. We're destroying animals and expect nature to protect us. We've got to think. So rajasic person believes the whole world is made for his tongue, for his body, and behaves the way he wants. Then you face the consequence. That's all he's saying. He says cruel, greedy, impure, and then you get moved by joy and sorrow. That is rajasic and tamasic.
Ayukta prakrita stabdha shato naishkritiko lasaha vishadi dirgha sutri cha karta tamasa uchyate. Ayukta prakrita stabdha षटो नैष्कृतिकोलसः विषादी दीर्घसूत्री च कर्ता तामस उच्यते.
An actor who is not steadfast is vulgar, stubborn, deceptive, malicious, lazy, despondent, and procrastinating is called tamasika. So all the negative qualities you can put into tamasika. Says he's not steadfast, can't make up his mind. Even if he takes up something, we'll leave it. So is not steadfast. Why? Because he goes by the mind, whims and fancies of the mind. I like this, I don't like this. I want this, I don't want this. It keeps changing, so not steadfast. Vulgar, crude, indecent, in thought, word, deed. There's no culture, no refinement. Today you hear the words of any song. You don't know how they have these lyrics. They can say anything in any song. Anything can be expressed. Now, is it right or wrong? Is it decent or indecent? It's just tamasika, vulgar. You can express anything. No refinement, no culture. Stubborn, obstinate, pig-headed, adamant. Cannot relate to logic and reason. Deceptive, wicked, cheating, misleading, lying for selfish ends. Then he says malicious. You're mean, you have a low mentality, you intend to hurt others and feel good about it. I got that fellow, I deserves it. Now you play God, you believe you have to mete out justice as though you are just yourself, you know everything. That attitude is tamasika. When an actor, tamasic actor, functions in that manner, and then lazy, disregards his duty, indolent, lacks effort, despondent. You get easily depressed, easily. Something can put you off. Yes, be patient, it didn't work out. Why are you getting depressed so easily? Tamasic quality. And then you procrastinate, postpone what you should be doing now. Karenge, dekhenge, where is the need? Aram se. Everything is aram. And then you lose on the quality of life. That is the nature of a tamasic actor. I'll take one last verse before we complete.
बुद्धिर्भेदं धृतेश्चैव गुणतस्त्रिविधं शृणु प्रोच्यमानमशेषेण पृथक्त्वेन धनञ्जय. बुद्धिर्भेदं धृतेश्चैव गुणतस्त्रिविधं शृणु प्रोच्यमानमशेषेण पृथक्त्वेन धनञ्जय.
The threefold division of intellect and steadfastness according to gunas, qualities related fully and distinctly. Do listen, O Dhananjaya. That's why I took it up. He's only stating that what we will be studying now, the next part, are describing buddhi and dhriti. Remember we did the 7 parts. We started with relinquishment, then there was knowledge, then action, actor. Now we'll go on to buddhi, intellect, dhriti, steadfastness, and last will be happiness, which we will easily complete tomorrow. And at the end of the discourse tomorrow, I'll put up the chart where if you just see it, you can do that same chart, your personality chart, and decipher what sort of qualities are predominant in you and which part. Is it knowledge? Is it the actor part? Is it the action? Is it your buddhi? Is it the dhriti? You will be able to have a fair analysis or assessment of yourself. And with that assessment, you know where you have to pick up your personality. So sattva you cannot develop. It's not possible. What you can do is get rid of tamas and rajas. If you can take away the negative part, which you can easily spot out, what remains is your positive nature. So you don't have to worry about sattva. You cannot develop sattva. what you can develop is the ability to discard the lower gunas. And that comes from discipline, that comes from study. That's why we are recommending the 4 books. I think they were mentioning the 4 books, because that is the order of study. I'll bring it up tomorrow. So, being the last day, I'll let you know if some of you are interested to pursue this. How do you pursue this? So, we'll give you the 4 books and also the option of e-learning, which is available now. It's online study, and you'll be listening to these lectures online, given by Swamiji. So you've got everything going. You've got the books, you've got the e-learning, and then you can always come to the academy and spend some time, maybe a week, maybe 10 days, and learn for yourself, and then come back and implement it in your life. If you do this, you should be able to have a fair grip over your own life. Thank you very much.